Hey everyone, I'm Arif Mirza of Name Cult. Welcome to the Domain Social. Before I begin, just want to remind you to subscribe or to get the invitations and passwords for future domain names industry socials on Zoom. Please send an email to info@thedomainsocial.com. As well, follow The Domain Social on Twitter and Facebook. For this episode, I'd like to thank Jonathan, Paige, Braden, and Mike Seiger for their help. Big thanks to Zach Maskovich for the discussion on the big Booking.com Supreme Court decision. And also thanks to Keith for his segment on brandables. And without any more rambling, here's the Domain Social for July 2nd, 2020. And so, there we go, get off of this. Pardon my side talk. There we go. So, the first most important order of business is there is one more rule. And it's going to be the Mike Seiger rule that you all come to the show with your favorite drink.
Amen.
On that note, I don't even know if he's here or not. Hopefully he's somewhere relaxing. But I really want to take a moment to thank Mike Seiger for not just the socials, but for everything he's done for the industry. Previously with Domain Sherpa, and with DN Academy, as he's still doing, and no self-promotion, but I can promote him. For anybody who's new, one of the greatest places to learn about domaining is dnacademy.com. So, go see Michael Seiger there. He's one of the leaders in the business and a great teacher. So, here's to Mike.
I don't really like him personally. I'm just
Remove.
Here's to Mike. And thanks for also giving us an excuse to drink every day.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody remember for next week, that's one of the rules, the Mike Seiger rule. Always have your drink.
a lot of rules.
Yeah. Okay, and so just want to tell you a little bit about those of us who are running it. My name is Arif Mirza. You guys might know me in a few places as Adigi. You might also know my daily list site, Name Cult, where I put the daily auctions and closeouts and all that stuff. So I've been domaining for about 3 years or so, since late '96. So I'll call it 4 years now. I've got over a couple thousand domains, so it's I'm getting there. But I see myself a little bit like Mike when he started Domain Sherpa a little bit, in that this is also a learning process for me. But it's not just me. I also have Braden, Paige, and Jonathan with me. And I don't know if you guys want to say a little something.
A little something.
Yeah. I think you guys are all pretty well known in the industry.
There you go.
I think maybe Jonathan a little bit less in terms of demeanor, but he does a lot of work behind the scenes with ICANN, and I think you were involved with NamesCon at one point, weren't you? Or the pre-NamesCon show, was it?
Oh, I've done a few shows. I was the co-founder of NamesCon and a number of other conferences, but this is all about the session, not me and my background and everything. I'm just glad to be here, and thanks for having me here.
Yeah, well, no, thank you for helping out. And I think everybody knows Paige and Braden.
Jonathan's been involved with registries and domains since he was in grade school, which was in the mid-'50s, I think, right?
Something like that. Yeah. No, I think I was just elected to the vice chair of the technical committee for the registrar stakeholder group, and I work with what's called the registrar technical operations as the co-chair of that. I do some stuff in and around ICANN. That's a bunch of analogies that probably won't be too familiar to most. But no, just glad to be here. Thanks. And I'll hand it to Braden. He's way more charismatic and interesting than I am.
Maybe, because so Jonathan is a propeller head. He's been a propeller head for a long time. So if you ask him questions, it's geek speak, and you probably wouldn't understand it because it goes over my head.
Beep boop beep boop.
So we're waiting for John Berryhill, who has not yet arrived, right?
I don't see him yet.
Okay.
He told me he was going to come, but he also mentioned if you had to install Zoom. So maybe we have a great
install Zoom. Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, Zach, you're here, right?
Exactly. I was saying we also have Zach here, thankfully, who is just as much as an expert in the
All right,
legal
Zach,
field. So
you're on deck.
So he's
Zach,
on
you
deck.
got a haircut.
Before we do that, I just want to run a little poll. Where are my polls? Here we go. Poll. So, and it's regarding what we're going to be talking about is the Supreme Court decision on Booking.com. So here's the poll. And do you agree with it?
You agree with it? Or do you like it?
Well, I won't agree, so I guess it's agree, but later on you can tell us whether you like it or not.
Hey, Zach, if you, because the decision seemed, the biggest thing about it is it seems to be a change from what the thinking was. Maybe before we get to what the decision was, we can maybe summarize what the rules everyone's been operating under have been for the past, 20 some years. And at least for me, that's this concept that you could not trademark, this and that. And then that may give some perspective to the idea of what may be changed in this ruling.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm gonna end the poll now. Just wanted to get a little poll to see what it was like before, and we'll maybe do one afterwards to see what the change was. And poll and share results. So seems most of you are unsure. 18 of you, and then 7 yes, 8 no, and 5 of you no clue. So at that, I guess we'll hand over to Zach a little bit to discuss a little bit what it's about. Zach, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. You can hear me all right, I suppose?
I can hear you, I can see you.
Yeah. Okay.
So start off with telling us what your thoughts on the case.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Hey,
first of all, I wanted to hear. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, what I'm going to do for this segment with Zach talking is I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody and then turn off, so unmuting, so we'll get, we can just solid hear you. So I'm going to do that. So pardon this, everybody. We're going to get muted so that we can hear Zach perfectly.
And Zach, if you could just if you feel like we're putting you on the spot, we are.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So, I mean, I was really looking forward to hearing John as well. He and I have been friends for 20 years. He is both brilliant and funny. It's hard to be both. And so if he comes on, I'd like to step aside and look forward to hearing what he has to say on it. And we've corresponded by email and by Skype and by Twitter and on boards, and we have different viewpoints on it. It's a brand new decision. I think everyone's still digesting it, but there's room for different viewpoints on it. And so John and I happen to have different viewpoints, and maybe as time goes on, our viewpoints will merge closer together as we see how it evolves. But, I think, Paige, you'd asked a question initially, which might be a good starting off point about, where things were at before the decision, right? What the kind of lay of the land law-wise was. Okay, so, interestingly, we all know that, or we have heard, or we're familiar with the general concept that a generic term is not trademarkable, right? That's, kind of a first principle of domaining almost, in the sense that, no one has a monopoly over the word cars or homes or something like that, because you need these things for the English language. And if someone got a monopoly, it would hamper competition. So that's like a first principle, right? A generic term is by its very nature not trademarkable, because you can't kind of build a fence in favor of just one person in the marketplace. People need to use that word to describe what they're selling. And so that is still the case today. But this was before the booking decision as well as after the booking decision. Moreover, even before the booking decision, there were some domain names, generic .coms we'll call them, like art.com, like weather.com, like law.com, that applied for a US registered trademark and actually got it. And the thinking, and when I say they applied for their generics, they were offering services very closely linked to their domain name. So for example, weather wasn't selling orange juice, was offering information about weather. And art wasn't selling apples, they were selling or providing information about, providing sales of artwork. And so before the Booking.com case, it was still possible to get a trademark for a generic.com. Very, very tough, because you need to be able to show that it's no longer a generic term. In other words, shoe still means to me and you something you wear on your feet. But shoe.com, with $1 billion of advertising, with a huge marketing program, with tons of sales, with survey evidence that shows you ask the average man or woman on the street, what does shoes.com mean? And they don't say a place to buy shoes, but they say this company based in Tucson. That's the company, right? So at that point, it's actually not a generic term anymore, right? Because generic means referring to the actual good. But when it becomes associated by the consuming public with a particular company, it's not a generic term anymore, and you can get a trademark. That was the law before the Bookings.com case.
And Zach, we're still talking about the idea that it's shoe.com, shoes.com. They're not asking to trademark the word shoes.
That's right.
Weather,
That's right.
So I think we're talking about a combination of the two, not that they have the exclusive right. So I thought I'd just
that's right. That's excellent clarification, and that's integral to the point, is that when you add .com to the generic term, traditionally it was still considered a generic term, okay? Because you're adding .com, it's generic, and shoes is generic, okay? You put them together, everyone would say it's still a generic term. But through marketing, advertising, promotion, years of effort, survey evidence, it can cease meaning a website that deals in shoes, and can start meaning a particular company that sells shoes. And so this is before the Bookings.com decision. So what happened? And please, if John arrives, Arif, please just say step aside, because we all want to hear from John as well. Okay. So,
we're happy with your opinion.
Okay. And so the Booking.com case involved the well-known Booking.com company. They had applied for a trademark the same way that art.com did, the same way law and weather.com did, and the USPTO refused their application. So they went to court, and they won at the trial court, and then they won at the appeal court. Both the courts said, yeah, you provided so much survey evidence and evidence that people on the street, like 78% of the people in the survey, knew that Booking.com was your company and wasn't just a place to find information about bookings generally. It wasn't, it was associated, identified with a particular company. So they won at both the trial level and the appeal level. And then the trademarks office, when they were forced to explain themselves, they took the position, they said, yeah, we've let some generic.coms through in the past, and we haven't had a very clear policy on it, but we are totally against it. We want a hard and fast rule from now onwards into the future that generic.com domain names can never get a trademark in the United States, no matter what. You could spend a zillion trillion and you'll never get a trademark. 100 out of 100 people asked in a survey could say that Booking.com means this company, and you still can't get trademark. They wanted a hard and fast rule. And so Booking.com said, hey, these guys are getting a trademark. We have proved that we're identified by the public. And so they appealed at the Supreme Court. And at the Supreme Court, it was an 8-1 decision. And if you've been following the news, those don't happen all the time, right? And the justices, I listened to the hearing live on CNET, which was really extraordinary. It was like the first time that they had it, you know, live on the radio, essentially, because of COVID. And so the justices asked a lot of really tough questions. They got a real good handle on the case. And ultimately, what they came out with is this. They said, we've looked at the law, we've heard the arguments from everyone, we've read all the briefs, and we've determined this. Number one, the law has never been in the United States that you can never get a trademark on a generic.com. They've gotten them in the past. And that was number one. Number two, we don't want to make a hard and fast rule that says a generic.com can never get a trademark, because there are some situations where they should be entitled to a trademark. And number three, if somehow people spend enough money and put enough effort into getting a trademark, they shouldn't get a monopoly on the word itself. They should have a very limited scope of protection. And there's laws in place to protect against that kind of overreach by trademark owners. And so that's the gist of the decision from my perspective, at least. And there's other perspectives as well. I'll leave it there for now.
Well, that's a great summary.
Thank you.
So it really does. It isn't like any company would like to have their name trademarked. You know, if I'm pagehow.com, I can't maybe trademark Page How, but I'd like to be able to say pagehow.com is trademarked. And if anyone else tried to be pagehow.com, is it kind of interesting in that only the person that has a .com can actually operate a site called booking.com? So, you know, it's the trademark is great for them to be enforceable, but it's not like another company would actually say, or booking.com, because this wouldn't apply to booking.club or booking.tv, would it?
Yeah. So, Paige, you know, this isn't my first drink today. I just need you just to run it by me once a little slower. Just give me the question one more time.
Let me try. What about the owner of I think they own booking.co, but let's say they did not own booking.co. Would that now lose its value because they would get hit with trademark infringement?
I don't think so for several reasons. One is that, and this is kind of a policy, ICANN policy thing that Jonathan will be familiar with, is that, you know, new GTLDs, and this is a CCTLD in this case, I mean, the idea behind them is so that it can allow more people into the marketplace with different TLDs, is that if you get the .com, you don't need to get the 2,500 other ones. There's still room for other people to enter the market with similar names. So that's just the first thing that's in the back of my mind. But about the difference between booking.com and booking.co. If booking.com gets its trademark, which I now expect it will have, let me tell you about, so if they get their trademark, they will have a very, very limited scope of protection. If booking.co was not passing themselves off with the same look and feel of the site, wasn't pretending that they were the booking.com business, had its own legitimate travel business under booking.co, I think booking.com would have an extraordinarily hard time saying that name was either registered or used in bad faith or infringing their trademark rights. And the reason is this, is because just because they have booking.com, that's their precise trademark, and they have no claim over the word booking itself, all right? And their mark is as a whole, booking.com, and the court made very clear, just because they have trademark rights doesn't mean they have any rights in the word, and it's such an inherently weak kind of a trademark, the weakest kind of trademark there is, because it involves such a common word that courts and UDRP panels, I would expect, would protect the registrant in those circumstances from an overreaching trademark owner.
Then what's the point of having a trademark on booking.com?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And it was one of the issues that came up in the hearing. And one law professor from Harvard named Rebecca Tushnet, she came up with a phrase, is the game worth the candle? You know, and I have to Google that phrase myself. I'd never heard it. Maybe some of you had heard of it. But essentially, it's like, to burn the whole candle and use it all up, it was the game that much fun that was worth wasting the candle on. So in other words, all the effort to get a trademark, what is the point of it if your rights are so limited? I think that there's a few reasons, but they're not very good ones. Booking.com had a trademark in Europe since 2011, by the way, okay? It's had a trademark in Europe since 2011, and in the 20-year history of UDRP, it's brought one UDRP. Even when it had a trademark since 2011, it brought the UDRP over booking.com.xyz. You could see why that domain name would upset them, right?
Sure.
And when they went to the UDRP, they were able to hold up their European trademark and make the case. Because UDRP doesn't care where your trademark is. It can be in any country of the world. But if they were to go to a court in the US, they would like to have a US trademark to go after booking.com.xyz. And if they don't have a trademark, they would have to make other kinds of arguments. For example, passing off, unfair competition. They have other means at their disposal without relying on trademark infringement. But having a trademark would allow them to go after those kinds of typo squats. It would allow them to go after spoof sites that actually put their logo on it more easily. But at the end of the day, I don't think that this is a big play for them to grab a wide assortment of domain names. That's what they told the court, and I don't believe a word they say in the court because they're not bound by it, okay? I don't go by what they say or what their lawyer said. But based on their past history since 2011, doesn't look like they've used their European trademark this nefarious way. And I think that the Supreme Court made it very clear that courts shouldn't have patience for that kind of overreach.
All right, I'm gonna unmute everyone, so you're gonna get pummeled with questions now. But let's see what everybody else has.
Thank you for that summary, Zach. Thank you for
Yeah.
thanks for joining our social.
Very
Now can you
informative.
give us but thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right, so who else wants to ask a question? Don't beat them up too bad.
Zach, I have a quick question for you.
Sorry, just so you know, I haven't been able to read any of the chat, so just know that. Please go ahead. Yeah.
So Zach, I have a quick question for you. So
Yeah.
I used to work for .club, and I actually pitched booking.club to booking.com at the time, and now this may be a moot point, but I think it's worth discussing. Would they have come after them for that? Is that something that domainers should be weary of if you own an exact match and a different extension, pitching it to a larger company now moving forward with this ruling?
You know, the answer to that question doesn't, from my perspective, doesn't relate so much to the booking.com case, because when I get asked a question, you know, I have a domain name that's like an exact match of this company's trademark. Should I go pitch it to them? My personal way, as a personal approach as a lawyer, is to tell the client or the person asking, by all means, go ahead, but you're always taking a risk, because by contacting the company, their first reaction isn't always, let me write you a check, I've been waiting to hear from you. Their first reaction is, get me the goddamn attorney on the phone, this guy's trying to extort me, right? And so, yeah, so that's why, you know, you have to be careful with that approach. So my answer really doesn't have as much to do with the booking.com case in that particular circumstance.
But in this case, we're not talking about a typo, or we're talking about a generic term, right?
Yeah.
So booking is the generic term, and it's available in every extension.
Yeah.
And this trademark doesn't give them the right to every extension, right? Because they don't have a trademark on Booking. It's Booking.com. So
it's Booking.com and Booking.club and Booking. This and that. Everyone's entitled to use the word booking, and a proper interpretation of the Supreme Court's decision, in my view, is you limit them to Booking.com. They've got a great category killer domain name. They're shortly going to get a trademark, and muzzle toed to them, but they're not going to be able to expand it very, very far.
Zach, so I appreciate you saying that. So I guess on a high level, let's pull out. So
Yeah.
when I was working with .club, it wasn't like I personally own the name as an end user pitching it. They're a registrar.
Yeah.
They own every .club. So
Right.
how does the ruling reflect on, the end user, and how does it reflect on like a registrar?
Well, Jason, I don't think that this Booking.com decision changes anything at all in that respect. Because as I said, they had a 2011 trademark in Europe. They were entitled to apply and eligible to get a trademark for Booking.com before, as far as the Supreme Court is concerned. So this Booking.com decision didn't change anything. All it did is confirm the status quo from before. It confirmed the status quo. So whatever was legal before is legal now. And in my view, even if they have Booking.com, they shouldn't have any claim to Booking.com to Booking.club if it's registered, owned in good faith.
Zach,
And
can I
they
ask you a
brand under
question?
Booking.yeah, not even Booking.com. If you see all their commercials, it's Booking.yeah.
Yeah, that's true, Jason. That's true. That's what their ads were.
I think that was done on purpose. Zach, can I ask you a question? I have a jewelry.com, misspelling Jewelry. Does that mean correct spelling jewelry.com, which is actually being used, can come after me now?
Who's talking to me? I can't see you there.
I'm sorry, my name's Albert.
Albert. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Albert. So the first step is do they have a registered trademark or a common law trademark? And it would be very, very, very hard to get a trademark for jewelry.com, the proper spelling. If a client called me today and said, I'll give you $5,000 to go get you to get me a jewelry.com trademark in the US or Canada or something like that, I would tell them that even $100,000 isn't going to cut it. We're probably going to need $1 million by the time that, just for the legal work and just for the surveys. And then I would want to see, have you spent hundreds of millions of dollars of promotion, etc. Getting some background noise. We'll just wait for a moment. Yeah. Okay. So it's a tough lift to get a trademark for jewelry.com. But if there were a trademark for jewelry.com, what it would mean is that this is a brand name that the average person walking down the street knows, and that a typo of it could be susceptible to a trademark infringement claim.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Hey, Braden, I'll ask you a question if you're still there.
I'm sure.
So every once in a while, the domain name industry pops up on the front pages, where we make a news story or something like that, and the Supreme Court tends to do it. So they don't really get into the details or this, that, and the other. Is there any sense of how you think this one's playing? Like, is it good because it kind of reinforces don't mess with trademarks? Or is it somehow making maybe mom and pops think next time the domainer calls, they can get them? Any sense of how maybe the real big broad public is hearing this decision? Or
Well, I mean, it's a good question. I don't know that I can answer it, being that I'm in the bubble that we're all in.
That's true.
I mean, my sense would be that this is going to go over everybody's head.
Yeah.
I think it's one of these things that no one is following, right? Don't even understand the domain space to begin with, other than like you can just go register a domain at GoDaddy for $8. And a Supreme Court decision about this, I think it's too
Might be a little bit too complex. Is that it?
Can I interject?
Yeah.
I actually got an email yesterday from a major media source asking about our opinion on this case. So I don't think it's going over people's heads. I think people are trying to understand it. Any Supreme Court case, I think, is going to get noticed by somebody. But
a media company, yeah, because they're kind of in this world, at least the fringe, and
they're wanting to do an article, Braden. So I mean, they're not trying to understand it from the perspective of the company.
Not a media company. The media.
Yeah, they want to do an interview. So
Adam, is
Okay.
it a technically focused one, or is it more like a USA Today, more general?
No, it's a big company. So
Okay.
Well,
national.
I have one question on that. So like, I guess for me, it's less about how we as domain investors perceive the case and more about how bigger corporations and bigger end users perceive it, right? So if they see it in one way, that's what scares me, is like if they think that it gives them additional rights, then suddenly you get an increase of UDRPs, whether it's frivolous or not. And you know, for some people it's okay to be, you know, to defend a couple of UDRPs every now and again, but for others it sucks. And if this case can kind of lead to more of those, I think that's, I mean, that's my worry.
Josh, you hit the nail on the head. From someone who reaches out all day, every day, this is just another tool in the end user's tool chest to say that they have the right to this domain and use it against someone who's reaching out saying you should own this, and they say you're absolutely right.
How so?
Take legal action.
I think it helps the value of one-word domain names to tell someone who wants to pay $500,000 or $1 million or $2 million, whereas before it was, well, you can't trademark it. And now all of a sudden, if you're going to be money.com or vacations.com, I think it makes that name worth more, because before it was, well, you can be it, but you can't trademark it. And again, I'm not talking about trademarking the word, I'm talking about trademarking the look and feel of their site, that all of a sudden they can go all the way. They don't have this, well, we can't trademark it. It seems like it would really, I'd say maybe double the value of a one-word generic that you can trademark.
It does. It makes the person who gets the trademark, it makes their brand that much stronger, for sure.
But not because they can go after people. It's just they have all their ducks in a row, I think. What do you think, Adam? If you were talking to someone about buying one of your big one words and this comes about, doesn't it make it more attractive?
Yeah, I mean, I think go back to what Zach said about how much it costs to trademark. I think a lot of speculation from the domainer crew is that like, oh, somebody's going to go trademark beer.com and then my beers.com isn't going to, you know, John used that example. It's like, well, what does it take to become trademarkable as beer.com? I mean, from what Zach was saying, it takes a lot of effort. And you're talking about
it takes my permission. It requires my permission to trademark beer.com.
Amar.
Who's this guy?
Amar like snuck in here. He was hiding something. How do you hide in Zoom?
He heard about beer.com and he got right in there.
Yeah. Omar.
I'm driving right now, so I can't. I'm not on my laptop.
What a grand entrance, though.
Would you trademark beer.com now?
Not if it's going to cost me millions of dollars, but I definitely will make that part of the pitch when somebody wants to come. I do think it's somebody that can afford to buy the beer.com portfolio can afford a few $1 million or $5 or $10 million to spend that money on actually protecting the brand. So I do think it probably helps that value. But to what Adam said earlier, it was spot on. Most people can't and won't spend that kind of money. So I really think it's more of a sales pitch than anything. I don't really think it's going to be weaponized against domainers. They might try, but I don't think it'll be successful. It'll be really interesting to see
that beer, because everyone's going to say, hey, beer.com.
I would think in the sales pitch, you could say, if you grow your brand big enough, you know, if you spend all the money and do all the effort to grow your brand big enough to where the public, you know, knows you, just like how the public knows booking.com is a specific company, then you can trademark it. Because, I mean, unless you do that, it sounds like you're not even going to be able to get the trademark for your .com. So I think it's just maybe like an added bonus. If you get to a certain point, you can now trademark your domain. And that's, you know, a cool part of the sales pitch, I'd think. But I don't know if it's really anything else.
Right. But I do think it's going to be interesting to see the next batch of UDRPs and how the panelists interpret these and how the lawyers argue on both sides. So I don't really think we're going to know the impact of this for at least another year or two, because it takes time for there to be enough precedent. And obviously, this is where Zach and John can speak much better to it. But I think we're gonna have to see how it gets played out in the UDRP process.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Sorry, UDRP is so loose that you can come at somebody with its common law trademark right now. So does this really expand the abuse of UDRP, Zach? I mean,
yeah, it's a really good point, because like if I had let's say goodbeer.com and I brought a UDRP against the guy that has goodbeers.com. The first thing that the panel would ask me to do is prove that I have a trademark. And let's say I don't have a registered trademark. That's okay. I'll say that I have a common law trademark. I have had visitors to my website. I made business cards. I've got letterhead. I've got registered my company, cheapbeer.com Limited. And I would say to the panel, you see, I've got common law trademark rights, right? The lawyer for the respondent, if he or she was sophisticated and savvy as a domain lawyer, would make the argument, as they have done thousands of times in the past when people have tried this, okay? There's actual cases where people try exactly what I'm talking about. The respondent's lawyer says, hey, the threshold for proving trademark status on a common descriptive term like that is extraordinarily high. 10,000 visitors to your website doesn't cut it. What's your advertising budget? Is it in, the tens of millions? Let's see your sales volumes. Let's see your ads on TV at the Super Bowl. Let's see these kinds of things that show that. Let's see the consumer surveys. You can't just say that I have common law trademark rights based upon some use. Use doesn't make your trademark when it's a generic or descriptive phrase. It's a much higher bar. And so right now in UDRPs, people can claim they've got common law trademark rights, but the panels, if they do the right thing, and the response lawyers, if they handle it correctly, will shut a case like that down before the Booking.com decision and also after.
If they handle it correctly. That's the big if.
Well, mileage will vary.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, this is the whole thing. I mean, courts make wrong decisions. UDRP panels make wrong decisions. Lawyers, God knows, make wrong decisions. So nothing's perfect.
Yeah.
Zach, I have a question. About 7 years ago, I registered a two-word domain name, and that I thought would be of interest later on. And sure enough, about 3 years ago, a Fortune 50 company came to me and offered me a sum of money to sell it to them. And I said no, and I wanted a little bit more. They kind of cut off the conversation, cut off the communication, and then they went ahead and trademarked the phrase itself, not the .com version. So my hands are tied. I cannot sell it because it's trademarked.
Okay, so listen, this is a very interesting situation, okay? Because this has happened for years. If a domainer registers a domain name, and it's usually not a generic domain name, it would be more like a brandable domain name. Let's call it like Quirky Orange, because it occurred to you that this is a cool brand, so I register. And you don't use it. There's no business, there's no goods, there's no services, no advertising behind it. And some guy you never heard of in the other side of the world goes and registers a trademark for it in the United States, let's say, for clothing. And he's actually using it for clothing. He has his clothing in stores. Well, unfortunately, he's carved out a little bit of the value of your domain name, because he, at least in the United States, where he has a registered trademark, because when you try to sell it to someone, they might be able to use it for all number of things, but not in a way that infringes this guy's rights. So you can lose value in the domain name by not using it. With generic domain names, it's a little bit different, because you're sitting there thinking, well, nobody, someone might go trademark Quirky Orange, but nobody can trademark bookings.com. Nobody could trademark, beer.com. Nobody can trademark shoes.com. That will never happen. So I don't have to worry about someone getting a trademark behind my back and taking away the value of the domain name. But as I mentioned to you in the past cases with art.com and log.com, it can happen. What we might see more of is more companies doing that with a generic domain name. It's still going to be extraordinarily hard, and they could do it before. But with some of the attention of the Supreme Court case, there might be some more interest in trying to do that. But even if they did that, it shouldn't, as we discussed before, it shouldn't take all the value away from a domain name that might be similar, because the Supreme Court said there's going to be confusion between similar marks, but that doesn't mean company A gets company B's domain name. And there's been cases over the years where the courts say consumers on the internet know small differences matter in domain names. You add an S, you have a dash. People know that because of the economies of scale on the internet, small differences matter, and judges have said that. So small differences continue to matter, even after the Booking.com decision.
Okay, so Zach, so I mean, using your example, let's say that I have quirkyorange.com and registered Quirky Orange, and I couldn't. So the value of quirkyorange.com was diminished considerably. Yes. After this Booking.com version, does that domain have more of a value? So in other words of saying, because they have not registered the .com version, does the .com then become more valuable? Can it be sold to a third party because the trademark is not for the .com version?
Okay, so Joseph, it sounded like you asked a really good question, but I didn't quite catch the whole thing. But I saw Adam shaking his head. You must have heard the whole thing, Joseph. Do you want to take a shot at it? Then maybe I'll catch up to you.
The way I heard it. Sorry, maybe
translate for me.
Maybe you could correct me if I heard it right. But
all right,
somebody trademarks a phrase, and then you own the .com of that phrase. They've already trademarked the phrase. You're not going to get. I mean, you're kind of at this point you're screwed. I mean, they were the ultimate buyer of the domain. Yes, somebody else can come in and buy the domain and start a different business. Like if it's Quirky Orange and they sell computers and somebody wants to come along and buy Quirky Orange and sell oranges, yeah, they can do that. But at this point, not many people are going to, I mean, it happens to me all the time. Like somebody decides that they don't want to buy one of my domains and they just go and start a business and use a .io that they bought from Josh or somebody, you know. Yeah, you're out of luck. Sorry, Josh.
Oh my God!
Josh is doing pretty well with his .co's and .ios.
You guys stay away from my .ios and .co's.
But they won't be able to take it away because your registration date precedes the trademark.
Right, but
exactly,
but at this point, nobody wants to buy it.
Yeah.
You know, like, so
for the
that's
buyer. For the buyer.
Well, the other issue, the other issue though, is what Zach said. I think you guys aren't talking about that. Is that the person who got that trademark has now slightly diminished the value depending on how big of a vertical that they're operating under for that trademark, right? So, and a really simple example, you know, Quirky, or let's use Booking, right? So if they took out all of travel in that, so you still use Booking for other things, for selling computers, but you know, probably the most useful version of that, or useful use for that name, is travel. So in the example with that Zach was trying to say, though, the more trademarks people get around your SLD over time, you know, that starts to eat into the value, because that diminishes the pool of potential buyers.
It limits the scope of use.
Yeah,
right. So, like I have a good example for a phrase. I just got goodvibesonly.com, and that is a super, super, super common phrase, right? It's got 12 million hashtags on Instagram, but there are also a lot of, I believe it was Good Vibes Only that I was looking at, that had a lot of trademarks on it for different uses. So I think it was that one, but it might have been another phrase. I have a bunch of phrases, and when I look to see how many trademarks there are on these phrases, it really starts to hit home, like, okay, you start getting restricted on what you can do with these names. or who might want to buy it from you.
Yeah,
Can I ask Zach a question?
Stan, hey Stan.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey.
Stan, you're
How are
scaring
you?
me already. He asked the toughest questions. Okay, Stan. Oh my God. Okay.
So I think this is a double question. I think
I bet.
it would be interesting to hear what you think is going to happen now in the next couple of years, and kind of also what risks you see with looking at this decision.
Right.
If you see any.
So yeah, so I mean, the best people to talk to find out, you know, how this decision is going to affect things are actually trademark lawyers, right? Because they're the ones that it would apply for, like a Booking.com trademark or some other generic.com trademark. And so I've been keeping my ear to the ground, listening to, you know, their discussion groups and listservs and comments and articles, and from everything I gather, they're not particularly like ecstatic that, you know, this opens the door to, you know, new business of getting generic.com's trademark. They're not thinking, they're thinking, yeah, it's the same old story. Like, it's the biggest companies with, you know, $1 million, you know, are going to be able to get a trademark here. So, I mean, that's a kind of one indication of how we may expect things to go. You know, the other thing to look out for is people misunderstanding the implications of this case, right? Because you have some nutcase sends you a C&D or demand letter saying that, you know, he's got generic.com and according to the Supreme Court of the United States, you have to hand over your domain name to him, right? You have to be aware of what the case actually says, because he's just read, like, you know, the Coles Notes version and totally misunderstood it. So, you know, you got to look out for that as well. And I think there's a third kind of situation is that, you know, a sophisticated complainants lawyer in a UDRP might mistakenly believe that they have a better shot at getting a generic.com based upon a claim of common law trademark rights. And it's going to, but we have to continue to put pressure and expect the panelists to hold the line on the high threshold that it takes to get a trademark rights in a common term.
So you don't see any risks, I mean, of practice sliding in the next couple of years?
No, I don't.
This decision is so clear that that risk doesn't exist.
Well, I think that any time a new case comes out at the Supreme Court Canada concerning your industry, there's reason to have some apprehension and to be uncertain of what comes in the future. But my view and my characterization of this is that if it's not a complete nothing burger, it's certainly small potatoes, because it really didn't change the law. It didn't open any door. It provides some clarification, reminded everyone of the limits and scope. So I don't see anything in the decision that makes me scared or worried, but I do think that we're going to have to continue to look at this and see how things play out down the road.
Yeah, I work as a domain broker for a brand protection firm, and I've been doing so for the last couple of months, and I'm a domainer for the last maybe 5 years or so, seriously. And the first reaction of this brand protection agency was that this is great. This is going to mean a lot more work for us, because people are going to take an interest in protecting domain names as brands, and they also think that more are going to use the legal avenue to pursue domain owners. So I think that is actual risk in the short term, at least.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I think that a quick reading of the case or listening to a report of it might result in a business person or a brand protection representative thinking that this has opened the door to getting generic.com's trademark, and we're going to now hustle business to try to to get those trademarks for people. And I think there's going to be some of that legitimately at the highest level of business. But I think that people are going to quickly realize that it ain't so easy. Remember, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office was the agency that didn't want to allow any through, okay? They didn't want to allow any. So now the Supreme Court says, hey, you got to allow them. They're still going to be sticklers. They're going to say, show me the 50-state survey that proves that your brand is known to the man on the street, right? So it's going to be tough, but I think that people are going to test and probe a little bit to see how it goes. Some people are going to put in an application, see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should start a survey business.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Should we continue this conversation because there's a few more questions, or should we move on to other stuff? Because I think we could be talking about this for the rest of the day, but we've spent.
I just have a quick question, Baden, if you don't mind.
Okay, one last one.
Fine.
Is that good for everyone?
Is that fine with everybody? Yeah.
One last one.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
One last one.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Zach. Now, let's say Booking.com it went all the way to the Supreme Court, this and that, for the travel business that they made themselves. They proved themselves to be known that generically everybody knows, okay, Booking.com, travel. Now, what I'm curious about is once they have this sort of on paper, the decision of the Supreme Court, what if they branch out into other divisions of business and then like, I don't know, maybe car rentals or whatever the case may be. And do they, to have, let's say, this type of limited scope trademark, do they have to go do all this process again in that division, or they could just umbrella that decision into other divisions they go into?
Thanks, Saro. By the way, where are you, Saro?
Montreal.
Montreal. I could tell the Montreal accent. I'm from Toronto, right? Yeah, that's right. You guys may not all be attuned to that, but I picked it up like that. In fact, I'm going to be ordering some Schwartz's smoked meat from Montreal online for this weekend. But yeah, so, interestingly, do you know that hotels.com has a trademark and has had one for years? All right. But guess what their trademark's for? It's not for hotel reservations. It's for reservations for Broadway shows and car rentals. Okay, because they found they realized they were shut down by the court right below a federal appeals court right below the Supreme Court. They were shut down by them because even though they had all these affidavits and evidence that said that hotels.com is associated with their particular business, they didn't have quite enough evidence, and they tried very, very hard. And but they did get trademarks for car rental and for booking Broadway shows. All right. So but if Booking wanted to bring UDRP, just for example, they just need one trademark. Doesn't matter what fields it's in, right? They just need any trademark. The European one worked for them 11 years ago, right, in 2011. But if they were to branch out, they would need and wanted to protect their brand in, for example, the restaurant business. They want to open up a chain of restaurants. They wouldn't have any protection for the restaurant business. They would have to add restaurants to their brand, and there's a procedure for that. The only exception when somebody doesn't need to add a good or service to their brand is what's called like a famous mark. Like Coca-Cola, it's got marks for everything under the sun. But even if you found one thing that they didn't have, their mark is so famous, you can't start Coca-Cola Blue Jeans, okay? Right? Because everyone associates it with them. So famous brands are kind of the exception to that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah.
Okay, so let's move on to the next session. Zach, thanks for.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
It's so nice to see all your faces here. So many people I know and most that I don't. So really, thanks for listening and thanks for having me. Great questions, people.
Thanks, Zach.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you. So let's talk about. Does anybody have any inbound offers where you're negotiating to sell a name and you want a little help with that discussion on how to counter, or what you think, or you want our advice on what we think your name is worth?
I have one, if you want.
No, not you, Josh.
We can.
Anybody else?
I don't.
Josh, go ahead.
No, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not doing it. That's it.
Josh, do it for me. Do it for me.
Josh is
What
first.
does it mean?
FOTW.com. I got it from a uniregistry broker. Inbound offer $5,000 this morning.
FOTW, is that what you said?
Yep, FOTW.com.
And does it have a meaning?
It's kind of like there's a few companies out there like that use it as an acronym, but it's like Flags of the World or something off the wall. There's a there's a few acronyms out there, but the OT is commonly used for of the. So yeah, my asking price for it was $20K.
Stands for Freak of the Week.
Freak of the Week? Oh, that's why I bought it. I forgot. Oh yeah. Whoops.
It's interesting how Adam just had that right away. He's like,
or there's another F. There's another F word that you could put in there.
Yeah, when you started spelling it out, I was a little bit worried there.
Josh, did you have make offer landing pages everywhere? Did you not have a price anywhere?
No, that was just a unique. That was just a one of many different types of landing pages. I have some at FD, some at Uniregistry. This one is not priced, but I think it's on Afternic for $20K as well.
Okay, so it has a price somewhere. Like if they did some digging, they could find the asking price.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so is that before commission? Is that gross or net?
Yeah. So the buy it now is $20K.
No, the $5,000 offer is that that you said came through a broker, so it's pre-commission.
I actually don't know. The Uniregistry broker just came in and said, would you accept 5K? So I'm assuming
it's Uni. Yeah, then they're going to pull 15% from that.
But it's a GoDaddy, but GoDaddy don't do that, and he's a Uni/GoDaddy broker. So
merger.
If you have a Uni broker, then you're going to be charged.
His GoDaddy email address or his Uniregistry email address?
It says GoDaddy broker, but it came from the Uniregistry platform.
No, so that's commission. So you could like toggle the switch and shut off, and you could handle your inbounds on Uni yourself. And then I think they just charge you like a lower percentage, but at that point you're going to be like at 15% or something like that.
No, I don't have any brokerage set up on Uni. All of my inbounds are handled by myself.
Well, you have to shut it off.
It's off. It's off. I don't have it on. This guy. This is just someone that approached me.
Yeah, they still get leads because of the syndication. They take all the syndicated leads.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, I guess the real question is what's the current rate for 4L that kind of has acronym value of some kind. 5K was the asking price, right? Is that it?
No. Yeah, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't take 5K from it for it, to be honest. But I think that some people might, but I don't know. I think it's worth more.
Why?
I just think it's a good. I think it's taken in a lot of extensions, which is pretty rare for a four-letter.com. It's developed in a lot of extensions. I think 20K is a reasonable price for it. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
There's so many 4Ls. I mean, I have a bunch of them. I rarely get offers on them. I kind of feel like, you know what, if you can turn one of those, you can take that $5,000 and buy a few more.
Yeah, like I'm not big on the 4Ls, but I know that the OT in the middle makes it a lot more flexible in terms of end users. Like it broadens your potential buyer pool, I think, considerably. And with the W at the end with world, so anything F of the world, or it's you have a lot more potential buyers there.
I think
have you counted
price. I don't know.
Have you counted it?
Go ahead, Braden.
All right, sorry. So was 5,000 the opening offer? Have you countered?
They said initially came in and they said, hey, what's the price on this one? I said 20K. They came back and said, how about 5K? And then my last email was, I won't take anything less than netting 15K. In reality, I might take something less, but
Wait, are you saying that somebody would say that they wouldn't take less and possibly take less?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my
Josh, you
Josh?
probably know. Sorry, Logan, go.
I have a sales comp for this, maybe.
Okay.
But I sold FOTC.com for $10,000 last year.
Okay.
See that on name bio. Yeah.
That's what I say. I think 10K net would be market for my opinion on this.
Yeah.
I think I would sell it for that as well, to be honest.
COTC.com sold for 7.5 last
Josh,
year.
I think you're in a strong position. I mean, 5K is a really strong first offer when a lot of us get $1 or $100 offers. So, I mean, if you're coming in at 5K and you're countering at 20, I think you have a lot of room. And I think 10 is, like Logan said, is a good sales point. I think 5 is a good sales point, but they're already there. So why not work your way up?
But are you being asked to come off the 14? Was the 5 after they got the 14?
The 5 was their initial offer.
Right.
After they got the price request. And then I said 15.
Right. And then
I think
that's where you are right now. So you're almost trying to decide whether to keep waiting or whether to re-engage to do something, or do you feel like, I guess that's a good question. How long do you wait after offering the 14 and not hearing anything before you ask the broker, which normally would be a sign of weakness, hey, what's going on with this one?
Yeah, the thing is, I'd be fully transparent with you guys. I'm quite a lot more aggressive when it's a broker that comes through. I feel a lot more, I don't know, feel a lot more powerful to ask and stay firm on a higher dollar amount. Because I kind of feel okay going back to them and being, hey, you know what, just get me the best that you can get me, if it doesn't pan out,
Well, and the uni brokers are really really good about following up. So you don't really need to press them. They have a great CRM where it pounds the buyer like to excessively. And they continually follow up on your behalf. You might want to check, in this case, are they representing you or the buyer? It sounds like they're representing you. They're just bringing you the offer. So,
well, that's why he said net.
Clarify.
That's why he said net in all the numbers, 15 net, or I suggested like 10 net, so they can, factor in the commissions on the back end, make it an 11K sale or whatever the hell they want to do. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, Amar, great point. Like, be aggressive with the broker. Like, if you're going to tell them, listen, I'm going to sell at this point, be aggressive. Like, that's an easy payday for them. Like, they're going to follow up if you're telling them this is my threshold.
Yeah, the uni, I agree with Amar. The uni CRM, it's more of a drip campaign, man. They hammer them. It's automated, so you don't have to worry about following up with them, because they are following up all the time. And don't think they're representing you. They're representing themselves.
I think it comes down to, if you want to go for max sale price on this one, or if you want to just go for an amazing return, because on, I see what you paid for the name, and, even a 10K sale would be a fantastic return in the time frame that you've owned it. But, you could also hold out thinking that someone will come along and want to pay 20. So it really just, I guess, depends on what your goals are.
Yeah, but how many other 4 letters, something others could they buy? So, like,
that's not
you
why
need to negotiate. You need to engage.
What did you say, Adam?
That's not why they're buying his name. They're buying his name.
That's the thing.
Reason.
Yeah, that's my thing is, like, when someone comes along for a 4letter.com, it's not random. They can't go back and find a different 4letter.com because it has a very specific meaning. I don't know about you guys, but in general, I find it pretty hard to price my 4letter.coms, because I think there's scenarios where buyers will pay a lot for them.
It's so circumstantial and unique. I mean, yeah, if this is the only acronym that works for these guys, it just depends on how much it's worth to them and how bad they want it. I mean, there is no alternative. So if they think it's worth 100K and they're willing to pay for it to get it, then boom, you can get 100K for it. So yeah, I agree. It's tough to price these ones that are where there's no other alternative.
Well, if you're the .com, Josh, if you're the .com, then I think a really good way to gauge who this could be, or certainly a way to gauge value, is to look at, you said a bunch of the other extensions are developed and being used. So, you know, look to see who is on those other extensions, and are they big companies, are they growing companies, or, you know, that could give you a great idea of who it could be. And if not, and if it's not one of those existing users and somebody new, your fallback is always to go back to the .net, the .co, the .io, the .org. There's always going to be value there because, you know, as they grow, they're going to probably want to upgrade. So you have a fallback position.
I think just to add a little bit of context, I think that the buyer is probably a company called Fall Off the Wall. Fall Off the Wall. They're a marketing agency. They've got like 30 employees on LinkedIn, and they use falloffthewall.com, I think.
Right.
So I think that that's them. And
so $20K is totally reasonable. And it really comes back to something that we've said in the past socials, and Braden just said it now too, which is, do you have a better use for those funds? Can you take that 10K, let's say you get them up to 10K now, and go buy something better that could be worth 50K, right? The goal as investors, if we're paying 10K, then hopefully we're getting an asset that we think is worth 50 to 100 plus, right?
Yeah.
So you just have to kind of weigh that. But the value is there, and you're not going to get hurt if you wait.
Hey Josh, if it's not your broker and he hasn't shared who this prospective buyer is, and you've identified through your strategic research on LinkedIn, etc., a company of 30 people that's in a space that could benefit from a good domain that has a longer form domain, why don't you do some outbound to that Fall Off the Wall company and say, hey, I just wanted to reach out and let you know that I am an investor. I have this domain. Basically, do outbound and see if you can just go in directly. And maybe that's not the buyer, anyways. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I wish I could.
Sure, that's
I wish I could do some more outbound.
Well, we all do, right?
I'll take a little cut.
We all do, but this one's hot on your list. This one's actually on your plate. You're taking the time to discuss it. So, and if you only identified one target, that's easy. I don't make cold calls either, even for my brokerage business. I hate it. I don't have time for it. But in this case, it's one company. I would do outbound on that one.
Yeah,
they're using FOTW in their branding.
Off the wall. So,
if I could, I'd like to make a couple of comments and observations. I'm not a world-class negotiator or anything, but I have read a little bit about it and put some practices, in use for my own negotiations. And when you give the opening offer for 20 and then they come back with 5, so you've set up the fences, right? You know what lane you're going down now. It's between 5 and 20. Then when you come back immediately, when you come down $5,000, the difference there between 5 and 20 is $1,500. You just deducted with the drop of a hat a third of the lane. You've closed the lane down by a third.
You've closed the lane down by
a third. That's basically the opening invitation for a split the difference negotiation. You're basically saying, I'm willing to take 10 for this domain. And which you just said actually to us.
Well, I typically agree with you 100% actually, and I have the same. I think I've read probably the same book that you've read, but in this particular situation, it was more of a candid response to the broker as opposed to the buyer.
Okay.
In terms of I basically said to the broker, hey, I won't take less than 15K net, which is essentially what my buy it now price is on Afternic anyway. Because my Afternic price is 20K.
But in that sense, you're treating the broker like your broker, and he's not.
Well, what I'm actually saying is that my price is 15K net to me, which is the same as my current buy it now price anyway.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Anyway, I just think, with all due respect, Josh, that this is a negotiation. And we all do it. We've all done it. And my negotiations are probably not much better. But from an outsider, I can see these mistakes. And you're confiding in the broker and saying, well, I'll take, net 15. And this broker has been through hundreds and hundreds of sales. And and hundreds of times he's heard, oh yeah, I won't go any lower than this. And what that means in subtext, when someone said, like when I'm negotiating and my opponent, the other side of the table says, I won't go any lower to this, right away a big flag pops up in my mind that says that's complete BS. I know he'll take lower. So I never say that when I'm negotiating. It's like being on Name Pros or something and arguing with someone and saying, okay, and that's the last thing I'm going to say about this. Yeah. 9 times out of 10, people come back. And when they do come back, they look really bad. They've lost a lot of power.
Well, I do agree with you. I will say this. 5 minutes ago, I wouldn't have taken 10K, but now just because you said that, I can promise you that I won't take less than 15K net.
And I'm not trying to, I apologize if I'm coming out like I'm trying to embarrass you or something. I'm just trying to draw lessons for all of us out of this, discussion.
No. You're 100% right. You're 100% right. I think that in general, you're coming down, that much in terms of percentage after, an initial offer is not a good move. I think typically sticking with your initial price is typically what you want to do to begin with. And that's typically what I do. But when it comes, when you have a domain priced on Afternic for a certain dollar amount, I think that, you then when you're approached by a broker, you have to kind of factor in the fact that in my opinion, I'm saving commission, right? I'm saving commission. So it's essentially the same net price to me. So that's the way that I was thinking about it. But yeah,
I think on this one, if I could add one, I think you can have enough faith in this buyer that the real negotiating may not start until you say, no, I can't. And then you'll find out what they really want to pay. So I think they're going to say 7,500. And right. I think you've got enough, even before we talked about it here, to say no. And then they'll switch gears to, okay, we really want to buy this name. What's it going to take? And I think you'll have your chance to do 12.5 to 14, because it does seem like a pretty natural fit. And but it is a good price for that name, and this is probably your best buyer for the next 5 years. So I think you're doing okay. Use the broker as your in between, and make him work a little bit, But it may not really start until you say no. And then it goes from being just jousting, trying to get it for the best price, to them actually going, okay, we want to buy this name, what's it going to take?
All right, hey, Josh, let me jump in, because we spent a lot of time on your name, and I want to give an opportunity to others.
Yeah, let's move on.
And besides, you have your own damn podcast. Jeez, come on now.
Who else
wants to talk about name?
Just one thing. If you know who's going to use it, who you think it is, go ahead and start putting up a small business on it, like saying coming soon, and put things on it. And that might motivate them, because if you start going out of business, you may not be interested later selling to them, even at 15 or 20K. That might put a little fire under them.
Yeah,
that's what I did. It worked.
Build a fake templated site for a marketing company,
exactly.
Another marketing company.
Exactly. If that's who you think it is. I did that with one domain name approximately 5 years ago, and it worked. The guy started coming after me like there was no tomorrow. And actually, I was going to use it, but he just gave me an offer I really couldn't refuse.
Sure, you were.
All right. Who else has a name?
Anybody else yet? Any incoming offers?
Hey, I got an offer on widgets.io.
Oh,
nice.
Okay.
And, they offered me $200 for it, which I think, I don't even think that covers my acquisition cost or the renewals. So when I countered, they raised it to 500, and I walked away from it.
Well, what was the counter?
I countered with 20K.
Okay.
Wait, did you say 200? 200 was the offer, and you countered with 20? Did I hear that right? I was grabbing.
Yes, that's correct, Jason. Yes.
You removed the decimal point.
I'd like to say that they're
probably an investor.
They're not in the same ballpark. They haven't even got on the bus to go to the ballpark.
Yeah, that's too big of a gap.
That's a good line.
And similar to Josh, I went and did some research. Okay, widgets. What else is out there with widgets? And I was able to find quite a lot of different companies that are operating, widgets this or this widget. I recently, put a lot of thought towards this. How much are people paying, like, sponsoring one event in a big way, or what's their lowest paid salary inside of a company? What is it going to cost them to put up a sign if they were a business? I think there's some merit to saying, if I think in context to that, I know there's an argument that this is like a couple lines in a file somewhere, or this is just, some digital thing. But if somebody's going for, a very specific brand and wanting to kind of take over that brand, I don't feel that that's an out of line price expectation. It might be out of the reach of many startups, but I get it.
Yeah.
Do you?
I'm glad you brought that up. I don't think I use this pitch a lot, and like I don't think a lot of people think like that. Like, what do you spend yearly on advertising? What do you spend on marketing? What do you spend on employees? People don't see domains that. I mean, when you get those end users, that's great, but they don't see it that way. They think, like Braden said, like, oh, I could go to GoDaddy, buy it for $8 and change. So it's a tough argument to put up.
It's possible that they already have widget.io and they're looking for, it's a defensive purchase, or they have widgets.co or so, and they're trying to pick up some of the others. It may not be that significant to them, right? It may not be they're building their company on this.
Yeah.
And it could very well be just somebody with a dream and just has $200 in his pocket to start something. And, that's the problem sometimes. We never know what the full story is.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
did you know it's on widget.io? Is it for sale? The singular?
I didn't look. Or I don't know off the top of my head right now. Anyway, do other people have other domains? I don't want to dominate this. I think it's good if other people get ideas.
well, how about fitw.com? fitw.com.
You just had a vowel movement there, right?
What was the offer?
fitw.com.
Yes, but what was the offer? What was the
No offers yet. How much should it be worth?
Okay, we're going to do reviews a little bit later on.
5,000.
We're going to do reviews a little bit later on.
That's another segment.
Yeah, we're going to do reviews a little bit on. And right now, actually, since we're done with this segment, we're moving along. Time's going pretty fast. I've got Keith DeBurr, who has his Brandable Insider Domain Review podcast. And I asked him to just do a review of a couple. Actually, I think he's doing a twist on his podcast. Keith, you can unmute yourself and tell us what you're going to do.
Yeah, so Arif asked me to do a little segment. So one thing that I do on my podcast sometimes is I sort of give little challenges to the listeners, and I say, here's a couple of domains, and here's what they sold for, and tell me which of these 2 or 3 domains, sold for which price, sort of which was the high one, which was the low one, because sometimes it's kind of fun and educational to see what things are selling for or not selling for in the aftermarket. So everybody knows about Keto, the diet. It's a low carbs weight loss program. And lately, this past month, there's been a lot of keto domains in the aftermarket. So for example, Keto Mix sold obviously to an end user on Cedo the first of last month for 11,000 and change. And then the middle of June, the Keto Company sold on GoDaddy to huge domains for $404. And they've set up a landing page for $38.95, which I think is a reasonable price. That's kind of a long domain for me, but I could see, somebody might buy that for $4K. But there have also been 5 other domain sales in the past 3 or 4 weeks that start with the keyword keto and end with a second keyword. So this is your challenge. I'm going to tell you the names, and 3 of the 5 sold for around $250, wholesale price, and 2 of the 5 sold for around $10. And your job, if you accept your mission, the challenge, and what I'd like you to do is to type in the chat, so because I know everyone can look on name bio and figure this out and cheat. So I'll read the names, and then you can just type in the chat which 2 names out of the 5 you think sold for $10 versus the $250. Does that make sense to everybody?
So a number
Love
or
it.
the domain name?
Love it.
Name.
In the chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, put the 2 domain names that you think sold for the lower price, the $10 versus the $250.
Okay.
Sounds complicated.
Sort of
I know. I should have had Braden explain it. All right, so it's Keto Bowl. They're in alphabetical order. Keto Bowl, Keto Crowd, Keto Dieting, Keto Sense, and Keto Street. I'll read them one more time. And you're looking for the 2 cheap ones. Keto Bowl, Keto Crowd, Keto Dieting, Keto Sense, Keto Street.
And they're all .coms, right?
Yep, all .coms. Bowl, Crowd, Dieting, Sense, Street.
Sounds like
Sense
a
or
setup.
sense?
Yeah, I'm sure it's definitely a setup. Be forewarned.
It's obviously the opposite of what we all think, or it wouldn't be very interesting.
Okay, and then so once everyone finishes typing in, then we can discuss, why we picked the ones we picked. So who wants to say why they picked what they picked and why?
I want to say Keto Street right away because EET or EAT.
We should put it in a poll.
So Keto Street was one of the cheap ones for $10.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Anybody
keto
else?
Crowd also. I would say crowd is a less popular keyword. I've learned that in a recent podcast from someone.
Okay.
That yeah, it's not as popular. So I would sniff out keto crowd.
Okay.
Didn't Green Street just sell for 100K? I'm just saying Street might not be a
Oh.
bad.
True
Green
too.
Street makes
Bad
sense
English
though.
word.
Like Green Street sort of makes more sense than Keto Street.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but cake could sell anything.
oh, okay.
So anybody else?
Mm.
All right. Well, you guys are really good because you picked the 2 cheapest ones. Keto Crowd and Keto Street sold for $10. And the
Wow.
other 3, Keto Bowl, Dieting, and Sense, sold for around $250.
I think the Keto Crowd and Keto Street, they overpaid.
I sold Keto Fix for $3,000 last year.
Keto Fix?
Yeah. I
Nice,
undersold
man.
it by whatever, $3,000. I had it in closeouts, so I was okay with it.
Keto Fix is a great name.
Yeah.
You only
Does
made,
anybody-
you only made 20 times your money. It was terrible.
Are any of the people on this podcast the winners of KetoSense.com in the auction? No?
Guess not.
Because I was about to make you an offer. All right.
You'd like
What would your offer have been?
Well, you said it sold for $250. I would have offered $500, $750, something like that.
What about
Keto
Keto
Sense is-
Dollars? How much would you offer?
Keto Sense is good.
Why is it good, Amar?
Because more and people are going to develop products. That's a perfect name for a product to sense whether you're in keto or not. Like, so people can check their millimolars in a few different ways, and the most accurate way is you do a finger prick test. But there's another company out there that has a breathalyzer version of it, which I have. But so I could definitely see that as
3:30 p.m. EST tomorrow,
as a
but would
product.
not impose on our.
Yeah, I can tell that you've done the keto diet, Amar.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested in it, and it's not going away anytime soon. So that's a name you could sell for, easily 10K. I would price it higher than that, but you'll have to wait for the buyer to come along. You can't do outbound on that.
So you said that with a finger prick they could test. So do you want to buy ketoprick.com there, Mark?
Well, speaking of pricks,
whenever I want to see that, I just pull up your picture of you on my phone.
well, there's also there's a urine test too that's very inexpensive. It's known to be not very accurate, but it's
right. Yeah, you can do the strips, but you don't want to pee on your hand.
But yeah, for those that don't know, the keto diet is very effective. You can lose, weight really fast and easy with it. but it's tricky because you have to, your carbs have to be super, super low, and things that you don't even think have carbs in them, like even vegetables, do have carbs and can throw you out of keto.
Apples.
Yeah, like apples and no fruit for sure, but even things like potatoes and squash and things. And the other thing is that there are some side effects. You can have keto flu, which is from not having enough electrolytes and supplements and stuff. So it's a kind of a tough diet. I've done it. I've lost weight on it.
And you can lose your mind.
It's tricky.
People without carbs go a little crazy, even if you're getting your carbs from broccoli.
So anyway,
cookies. If you can't have cookies on that diet, then forget it.
Keto cookies.
All right, shall we move on? What's the next?
Thanks for participating. You guys get an A+ for this test.
Thanks, Keith. And if you guys want to check out his podcast, it's at Ding Geek. Anywhere else? Oh, you can unmute yourself. Hold on.
Keto, you're muted. Or Keith, you're muted.
Yeah, brandableinsider.com.
Okay, perfect.
Keith, will you put that URL in the chat?
Yep.
Thanks.
There you go.
All right, so next up, I actually have somebody in mind, but I'm going to ask in general if anybody's had any recent sales.
I had one. Actually, I thank you guys for your support and assistance and advice. I sold mobiletutors.com, the one we talked about. I had originally received an offer of 500. I wanted 5,000 for it. And then the best offer they gave me was 2,200, and that was through GoDaddy. And I I worked with the broker there, and I said 2,500 or forget it. And so I got 2,500, and I decided to sell it.
Nice. Is that before commission? So you netted two for that, I guess?
No, that's net. Yeah, there's no commission.
It was okay. It was
500.
Okay, no commission. Very nice.
And would you pay for it?
I looked at it, $116. I got it at an auction.
Great.
Nice.
All day long.
Great.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
We talked about that when I was a couple weeks
And thank everybody for your support and advice, and say, go for it. That helps.
Congrats.
All right.
Right.
And I think that is a good use of when you get a call from the 480 area code from GoDaddy. just tell yourself that this could be a no commission deal where the buyer already paid their $69, and you are able to talk net, and that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right.
Sam,
Anyone else?
Sam, are you there? Sam, don't tell me you bailed out. Where is he? He's still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you want to talk about your sale?
I didn't sell it yet.
Oh, you didn't sell it yet.
I'm going to talk with the guy tomorrow, honestly.
I don't mind sharing one if we're sharing sales there.
Go
You
for
probably know Arif because we have some other chats that you might know about it. But the word was TrustFi, like TRUSTFI. I do own the Y ending too, but this was the I version. And it was basically a negotiation. The original offer was $100 because I have $100 minimum on my landing page. I didn't have a price on it. And within 30 minutes, back and forth, finalized for $27.50. And I checked after they recently gotten, I think, a trademark on it. I don't know if it was the same day or like very close to it, but again, it was something I had picked up. It had fallen through the cracks. So I got it, I think, somewhere around 25 to 50 I had into the name.
So Zaro, did you pitch them the other one?
I didn't. I didn't. And one of the reasons why sometimes maybe I could after the fact, but sometimes I don't, just to get stuff finalized. I don't like to give people too many options because they get distracted sometimes.
No, you're 100% right. I meant after they bought it, did you say I could also offer you the other spelling at this price?
The other one I would offer it because I have it actually on Squad Help, like the other version of it, and I was asking for way more. And $27.50 seemed to be stretching their budget a bit. So I rather them come to me if it is to try to at least get the same amount or more. But I didn't pitch it to them.
So I don't know what you paid for it, but like, what if you pulled it from Squad Help, reached out to them saying, I'm so glad you guys got this name. You own your brand. Would you want to buy this other variable for,
Yeah.
1,500.
Now,
You
I don't
know,
know how it would go.
95?
The reason being that I got to double check. I don't know if they actually officially got the trademark or just applied for it and they're probably going to get it. But I don't want it to be, oh, now that we have the I ending, you're trying to mooch off us or whatever,
You don't want to play with fire.
Yeah, I rather have the cards on my side if ever they make a case about it.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's great.
Andy Hill just joined us. Welcome, Andy.
Andy,
Hi.
There she is.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hi guys. Why is it all guys? We got one other woman?
We were waiting for you.
What's new?
high growth. We have a high growth rate in our women attendance in the last 15 minutes.
We have Aline here too as well, I think. That's just
Where's Joel?
Yeah, I wanted a Zesty Springs update. What's up with that?
Joel actually, she messaged me, said that she couldn't make it this week, but she'll be there next time. So
Andy, to catch you up, we're talking about offers that have come in and helping people negotiate their offers. No, sorry. We're talking about sales.
Oh, okay.
Right? I took a nap for a while, so I didn't.
I have a sale without an offer, so you're on track.
Yeah. Okay. I had a couple of sales. I'll just jump in.
Go for it.
I had two wires came in this week. I sold moodring.com. If anybody wants to take a guess at what I sold it for.
12.5.
Wow.
12,500.
Mood ring, that's so 80s, 1980s, my God. Wow.
75K.
I'd say
30,000.
$1 million.
30,000.
20,000.
25.
50.
20.
I
Maybe
sold Mood Ring for 30K.
Wow.
Wow.
Well done. Congrats.
Looks like a few people were right
Well, congrats.
on the nose.
Sam Charles nailed it.
I bought it in November for 2,500.
Beautiful.
Good turn.
Haven't had it for
That's
very
a
long.
great one.
Congrats.
Thank you. Also, I received the wire this week for packaged.com, which I think I mentioned not that long ago.
You did.
Yeah.
Where did you sell that to a packaging company?
Yeah. So I initially had that
one.
listed at 65K. They agreed after some back and forth to 45 down, and then a couple of months for the other 20,000, and then we put it in escrow. They backed out, and it took a couple of months to close it, and I closed it at just the 45.
Do they sell containers, or is it like packaging design?
Packaging, like bags and stuff like that.
Beast mode, Braden. Beast mode.
Did you say you closed it at 45, Braden, or
45?
So them backing out saved them down the line about 20 G's.
Yeah, but I blew them off, and I went back to them because I was waiting for them to come back, and they just didn't. And then they say, sorry, just we can't do it. And they were actually a little bit lower. I think they ultimately were 40. And then I finally said, fine, I'll do 45, and let's get the deal done. But I paid 4,400 for the name. So
okay.
I mean, I got the return that I wanted. 65 was high buy it now price, including commissions. So I'm really not upset about the 45.
That's a great set.
Yeah.
Wish I had that problem.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I got one. Kind of hard to follow Braden because it's not a 5-figure sale. But if some of you guys might have seen the post I did earlier about catching a pending sale on Afternick, and I had two of them in there that I blurred out. I was just showing you that if you might be able to see a sale before you get the email. Well, one of the two that were blurred out came through. It was rebud, REBUD.com, and it sold for $65.75. So
Nice.
Wow. Great one.
Nice.
Does that mean
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, I
Rebud?
was gonna ask. Is there
Real estate, bud.
I don't.
besides the obvious cannabis?
I was thinking about like just replenishing your supply maybe.
Oh, it's a good one actually.
Yeah.
So well, we paid about I think we paid like $550 for it. So.
Oh, congrats.
And
Well,
and that was
red bud.
that was purchased last year, so it's been like a 1 year hold. Really pleased that the sale came through.
That's awesome.
So
I'm gonna have to raise the price of my Bud Says.
there you go.
I got an offer of $500 for MalibuWeed.com, by the way, talking about buds. But anyway, I don't want to sell it.
It's not a bad name.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I would want like at least $5K for it, especially with what's going on in California. But so I'm going to hold on to it.
Yeah, but weed's a little bit of a poo-poo type of name. Like people want cannabis, marijuana.
Yeah,
Less
I
popular
agree
word.
with you.
Bud.
I've sold a few weed names down
Actually
the line
making a
for 2-3
comeback though. The
grand.
term
No,
weed
no, I own
is
a
actually
bunch
doing pretty
also,
well.
but I'm just saying more mainstream.
Yeah, I still prefer bud
Yep.
to weed, but it also just depends on the brand, on the whole brand itself, right? Like so many people, there's so many canna this and canna that, but unless it actually makes a nice brand together, it has to fit and work together to really have
Leaf.
value. You can't just put canna in front of any word and think it's going to be a good name.
Leaf is popular too.
Yeah, I have Bud Joy. I have a couple of cannabis-related domains, by the way, at Kate's site. So I was really very happy that Kate picked up on a few of them. One of which is hempking.com. I don't want to, anyway, talk about things that maybe is not topic right now. But anyway.
Anybody else have a recent sale they want to talk about?
I had a couple. Movingtotexas.com for $2,999, and Podcast Town was $1,799.
Very
nice. Where were they?
They were both after Nick Fast Track, no negotiation on either one. And then I have a funny story. Some names that I may or may not renew, I put down at like $399. And Delray, one of them sold first. I can't remember, but it was $399. It was either DelrayRoofing.com or DelrayBeachRoofing.com. I had them both, and they were both priced at $399, and one of them sold. So I raised the other one to $799. This is all after Nick Fast Track, no negotiation. They bought the other one. I'm assuming it's the same buyer. It was just a few days later.
Was
that? So I guess they realized, they looked to see, and
was that actually after they expired or
noticed them both? But
right before?
So
was that
I don't
after
know
they
if they
expired
noticed
or
them
right
both
before?
at first. I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Was that right after they expired or was it just before?
Oh, it was before they expired. It's just I wasn't positive if I was going to renew them or not, because I've had them for several years.
So how long before they expired did you price them down? Did you downprice them?
Maybe a couple of months.
Okay. Yeah, it's better than nothing, I guess.
Yeah, good plan.
Yeah.
Good stuff. It worked out this time. Just lucky, I guess.
Yeah.
Congrats. But I renewed my other roofing names for another year just in case.
How many more do you have?
Oh, maybe 20, 30.
650.
I'm in South Florida, and roofing is a constant need here. So I got a lot of geo roofing names, mostly from South Florida.
We all need a roof
for hurricanes.
Coming after you, Stu.
Years ago,
I'm
I
right
think
here,
I
Fort
traded
Lauderdale.
off. I had BocaRoofing.com, and I traded it off for roof repair. It was like they gave me like $3,000 or $4,000 worth of roof repair, but it wasn't a very good job. It didn't last very long in the roofing job, but they got the name.
Okay, well, before we continue with anything else, I just wanted a little bit of feedback for future weeks. I switched it to Thursday this week because I heard from a few people that they wanted it away from the weekend. They wanted a weekend with family, and then also with a long weekend in the States. Figured Thursday would be a good bet. But then as soon as I decided that, people started telling me, well, no, I think Friday is better. So if you can honestly do either or, then I just, don't say anything. But is there an overwhelming opinion of people who prefer Thursday
Do a poll.
Friday or vice versa?
Do a poll.
A poll.
You both.
I just type it in the chat, I guess. I'll quickly count them up afterwards. Thursday or Friday.
I think this Friday is the exception. But
Well,
Fridays is better.
honestly, I originally did it because I heard a few people saying they wanted to spend family time on Fridays at the beginning of the weekend. But then since making that decision, people have told me, well, no, because I don't really want to. This is a social for them, and they'd rather do the social at the start of the weekend than during their work week. And it's been fairly split. But I just type it in the chat, and that's going to be saved, so I'll check it afterwards quickly.
I mean, you're not going to please everyone.
No, that's what I'm saying. If if there's one that really people can't do, mention that. You can do both. Just don't say anything, and I'll just take it at that.
I mean, what else am I going to be doing now? Everything's canceled.
Is this going up on YouTube, if I may ask?
I mean,
is this going up on YouTube, if I may ask?
I'm not sure yet. Honestly, it's being recorded, and we're gonna figure it out afterwards. It's been a pretty crazy week for me. Actually, I myself had a crazy couple of days doing renovations, getting ready for an insurance thing, and then after not sleeping 30 hours, I found out my place where I work is laying off 80% of the people, of which I'm right at the cusp. So it's been a long week for me. But yeah, so I'll look at that, and we'll figure it out for next week. We still have a little bit of time left, so anybody?
I've got while we were just a little while ago, while we're doing the Zoom, I've been trying to sell a name to a guy who's been holding firm on his offer. So maybe I'll share that with you guys and get your opinion.
Do it.
Yeah, I mean, we're going back to the previous segment.
Put him on the phone.
Come on.
Put him on the phone. Call him up. Put him on speakerphone.
Right now.
Let's all email him.
Okay. So the name, I'm going to type it in, is interlock.com.
Spelled CK at the end?
Yep.
Yeah, interlock.com. There are several things that use interlock, like interlocking tiles, but that's not really kind of an industry. Ignition interlock is the industry.
Had a friend with one of those one time.
I would think it's more of like a driveway thing, like interlocking driveway.
Pavers.
Interlocking pavers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be a consulting firm too. You're interlocking with your clients' goals and just meshing together.
No.
Yeah, that's a great word. There's so many different meanings.
Porn site.
What's that?
He's probably thinking of
Somebody said porn site.
Adults.
Silicon Valley, right?
That domain is too puzzling for me.
Oh, geez.
What was that company? Something.
Puzzling.
Intersite.
Get it?
Let's assume it's the interlocking device one. Let's keep going.
Yeah, I mean, that really is the only industry that makes sense. It's used elsewhere, but it's not really a category
For
killer.
exact match, anyways.
I actually like that for. I've got a friend who does works for a company that manages interconnecting data between two companies, and that's big business.
You mean like API calls and things like that?
It would also be great for quad lock. They do those motorcycle, bicycle devices where you can lock your phone in.
It's also not interlock.
Zoom is the one that is the best monetizable one, as you were saying, right?
Yeah, I think it's an internet-based chastity belt.
Now you're talking. What do you guys think it's worth?
Ooh, about 60K. Let's say
42.
I said 35.
I was going to say six figures.
You mean for us or for you, Braden?
So I was asking 350.
Wow.
Yeah, I was going to say 250 to 500 would be like what I was thinking. It's a cool name.
And the guy will not go over 100.
Would you
That's
pay
where
for
we're
it?
at.
$100 or 100K?
100K.
Have you offered a payment plan, obviously?
Said for us or for you, Braden.
Yeah.
For qualifying.
It sounds like sold at $99.99.
No, he's already 100. Why would I go down $1?
Wow.
He is.
Braden, have you offered
You're
him
being
a
reasonable.
payment plan? If he
You're
does,
negotiating.
What about how about 100,000
Hold on,
down?
guys, let Leif speak, please. Yeah.
Hey guys, hey Braden, have you considered doing like a payment plan, 100,000 down and the rest over a period of time?
This is a giant company. They don't need it. That said, what I do offer big companies sometimes is they have certain budgets, like a marketing budget, and so they can only go up to a certain amount of money that is like discretionary. So what I'll do is I'll tell a company that they can spread the payment out over several quarters, right, to work with their budget. But it's not so much like a payment plan for them that they can afford it. It's just they need to spread it out amongst over several budget periods.
So it's not like
which I did offer, and this guy doesn't care.
He disagrees with the valuation, is what it is.
That's what it comes down to, and it's not a brand for them. It's just a category killer name within that industry. He doesn't need it, and so that's. And I've tried everything to get him above 100. I've even come down to 125 just to get a little bit more from him, and he won't do it.
So Brady, just to zoom out, they came to you via email with $100,000 offer, and you came back at what?
No, somebody else within the industry reached out to him. So it was sort of outbound.
Via phone.
What's that?
Email. They reached out via email or via phone.
This person reached out via email.
And then you responded in the email with what?
That he would be interested at the right price.
So will you be paying a commission to that person that referred this guy to you? So that, from what I understand, somebody turned them on to you. Is that correct?
Yeah. Not a broker, but I'm gonna kick him down some money just because he helped me.
So is it wrong to say that if you got your $100,000 tomorrow, you would not spend that $100,000 to buy interlock.com?
There's too much. Somebody's got feedback. I didn't say that again.
So if you got your $100,000 and you put it in the bank or wherever you put it,
under my mattress.
Mattress, yeah.
Next Monday, if interlock.com came up for sale, is it too basic to say you would not spend your $100,000 to buy interlock.com?
I wouldn't pay that. It's too much for me to hold it at that price.
Would rather have $100,000 than interlock.com.
I'd rather have more than $100,000. I'd rather have 350. I'd rather have 5 million.
But given the choice between two realities.
Yes. Yeah. So I think I would rather have the 100 over interlock.com simply because this is kind of a niche space. And I don't think there are a lot of buyers. And most of the buyers already know about this, this name, most of the big buyers. And I don't see any new companies opening up right now in this space because, with the pandemic, there's fewer people driving, therefore fewer people getting DUIs, therefore fewer people getting ignition interlocks installed in their car. So the industry is contracting at the moment.
Hey, Braden, there's a lot of brands. Hey, sorry, 1 second. There's a lot of brands out there called Interlock. I understand it's a category-defining domain, but the number of brands that I see out there is quite extensive. Not small brands either.
Yeah, right. For U.S. trademarks, there's 57 live trademarks that have the word interlock. So plenty of other potential buyers. I'd hang on to it.
Yeah, I think I would hang on to it as well.
Well, I'll jump in and say, if you're selling a name and you would turn around and buy back that same name at that same price, you're underselling your name. We are all supposed to be selling names for a lot more than what we're willing to buy them for. So that's if you're willing to, if I have a name listed for $1 million and I'm willing to pay $1 million for that name, then I'm selling it too cheap. That's my perspective.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I was saying I didn't think he would be willing to spend $100,000 to buy it.
I'm not. I see. I used to own ignitioninterlock.com as well as a portfolio of related domains. I built out a directory on that, and I sold it for 1.25, $1.25 million. So I mean, I know it has value, right? But I sold this whole. I never reported that because it was a developed site. It was generating leads, and there was a portfolio that went with it. So it's not a pure domain sale. So I'll make that clear. This was the only name that I had not acquired, and I finally got it when my non-compete was up. So the question is, do I just turn it, make a little bit of profit, and move on, or do I hold out for potentially another player?
Need the money?
I can always use money.
How long have you had
it?
How many years has it been?
I bought it last year.
Last year.
Well, it all comes back to the same question. What's your opportunity cost? Like, are you eyeing another name? Can you buy another name that you think you could turn for 4 or 5 times that amount?
He's not the right buyer.
Braden, did you say how much you paid for it?
I didn't. But I will. I paid 70.
Keep it.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
It's not a big spread.
That makes more sense because the spread is not there. Okay, I get it now.
How long have you had it again?
I bought it last year.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's not the right buyer.
No way.
Probably not the right time.
Some people don't even make 30K in a year though.
Yeah, but when Braden bought that for 70K, he didn't buy it to sell it for 100K. I promise you that.
Yeah.
Right. We all understand that.
He bought it to sell it for 125.
No, but that's the thing.
It's opportunity cost. The world we live in now wasn't the world we lived in when Braden bought the name either.
Right.
True, it's better.
Well, but this industry is contracting now.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. So part of me feels like I'll just, there's some profit in it. I haven't had it for very long. I haven't even renewed it yet. So, I just take my chips off the table. And then the other part of me says, it's not much margin. I can wait a little bit longer. So,
but not only that, Braden, you're also going to make them the happiest company in the world. You're going to make a profit. Everyone's going to move on and you're going to reinvest, and tomorrow will be a different day.
But it's so hard to buy names like that.
No, but Braden doesn't buy names like that. He made it very clear. The scale is closing. He paid a price. He's going to get a premium. He can move on to the next one.
What do you mean he doesn't buy names like that?
At that margin, he doesn't buy names at 70K to sell them for 100K, but the opportunity cost is closing. Like all the buyers, he said, were aware of the name.
I don't know about that, Braden. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure all the buyers are aware of that name? Because there's a lot of buyers out there.
Well, most of the bigger players, they're now aware. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going off of what he said. So you make a company happy.
I think I agree with Josh. I'm always surprised by when I'm talking with companies and they're like, we want this name or whatever. I'm like, you realize it's been for sale for 6 years, and they just never went to check. They literally didn't even type in the domain in the browser. They didn't even check at a registrar to see if it was if it was on an after name. It really blows my mind.
It wouldn't be the worst sale in the world, right? It wouldn't be the worst sale in the world at 100K. That's for sure.
Braden, I think you're saying that everyone is aware, all the big players are aware because your guy who was working the name reached out to all of them. Is that why they're all aware? Yeah. So now if no one else is willing to pay more, and I think that's a big factor actually, because you would need someone new to come in and be named that and have a big enough budget to pay more. So I think knowing that no one else right now any of these companies on LinkedIn, which your guy probably reached out to, are willing to pay more. I think that's a big factor in your decision. So
Josh,
they move very slowly.
Or you sit on it for another 10 years, and then maybe
right. Oh, that's always a decision for sure.
Right,
That's always
but
a decision.
That's a good point.
Josh.
That's a good point from Josh showing, to be fair. Like a really good point. If he reached out to all of those companies that I just showed in the LinkedIn, if he did reach out to all of them and they were all like no pass, then yeah, maybe you take the 100K.
And just to be clear, so when you look on LinkedIn or Google and you see all those companies, there really aren't that many companies. They've all been rolled up. So there's really a small handful of companies that own all those smaller companies.
And they move slowly.
Braden, I've got another idea for you. If you'd be happy with 125, that was the last offer you made them. They're at 100. Why don't you tell them to, let's compromise, meet in the middle. We'll split in the difference, 112, 500. But this deal is it's limited time offer in the next 2 weeks. Otherwise, that's it. And the domain will never be offered at this price ever again.
Yeah, he doesn't care. I
don't know who said that, but that's a tough sell.
Braden, you were kind of an end user a little bit when you bought the name, and the industry, the business prospects are maybe a little impaired since you bought it. The chances of you doing a joint venture, maybe, given all the other opportunities of all the other possible joint ventures in the world. I don't know. It sounds pretty good.
I could develop this and sell the leads. And this guy offered to buy the leads as well as I can sell them to other companies. But the question is, do I want to spend, $100 grand or 150 grand building out this site and getting it ranking and, because I have to compete against the site that I built before, which is still #1 for the search term.
Braden, what do you think the COVID impact is on people driving and how much they're driving and how much they're needing?
Massive.
No, but in the future, driving is going to go up as more people don't want to fly.
I didn't think about that. I was thinking the opposite, that there's less people driving.
Okay, but that's the risk, right? So do I wait 2 years to maybe sell it for more? Or do I just sell it now?
Well, good luck. Thanks for sharing the opportunity to put us
You didn't get a real answer yet.
Well, if you can sell it for 100K and buy 2 awesomeoneword.coms for 50K each, sounds good to me.
Yeah. Josh, send me those 2 awesome.coms for 50 each.
Yeah.
Let's do that deal.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on. I don't mean to take up too much time.
Well, I mean, it's now 6 o'clock here in Montreal. I don't know. I guess it's.
But hey, it's Thursday. We can keep rolling.
We're gonna roll right into Friday.
Well, before deciding either way, I just wanted to say thanks first of all to everybody for showing up. I had no idea what to expect. I really am super appreciative to Mike Seiger again for helping us continue this, because if it wasn't for him, well, I mean, as a domainer, I probably wouldn't be here from all his help with the Sherpa episodes and all that stuff. But specifically to this too, he sent out the email and he answered some questions for me that I wasn't sure about. So big thanks to Mike. I think right now I'm tentatively going to say the next one will be next Friday.